Welcome to In Business with Terrell Sheppard. Yours truly, once again, glad to be here for a special segment of In Business. Of course, we talk about all things sports and we talk about all things business. And why not when we're talking about a very, very special guest and hopefully even host at some point, none other than the one and only Washington's own, Washington Redskins' own, Rick Doc Walker. Rick, so glad to have you on the show.
Man. Good to be here. I mean, sports is business. So I love your format, love what you've been doing, and happy to be a part of it.
Fantastic. Well, you know, before we get started into some of the other business, of course, we've been here, and of course, your beloved Washington Redskins, which, you know, you have the rings to prove it.
I ride or die with them. Yeah.
The Redskins have gone to 0-4.
Yeah.
Now, I'm looking at it, of course, as you all know, watching my show, you always look at it from a business standpoint of view. So I wanted to bring on somebody who understands, because we understand what's happening on the field. We get that. And all you got to do is listen to Rick Doc Walker, and you can catch him on 980. You can catch him on, he is the voice of Washington for me. That's who I listen to when I'm talking about looking at the Redskins. But I really want to get into this whole idea of really the sports business of what's happening in terms of what do the Washington Redskins need to do. And we've had a lot of opinions from a business, from an organizational standpoint, maybe, because I think sometimes we look at this from, you know, I always look at it this way. The product that's on the field is a result of something that's happened before you got on the field.
Yeah.
And so we know that we can, you know, people say, oh, they need to do this, they can do that. But I'm looking at something, and trust me, my team is, you know, we're just praying for the mediocrity not to run out in Texas. That's another conversation for a whole nother show. But the idea that we can have an organization for the last 10, 15 years, really since the Snyder era, because we're not talking about 20 years. I mean, at mediocrity. Mm-hmm. Now, it's one thing to say this year we have a bad quarterback, or we got a bad running back, or we got a bad line, or we got a bad whatever. But you can't do that for 15 to 20 years.
No, well,
so what's yes, yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
So what's the organizational deal, Doc, that's probably systemic behind this that people aren't really talking about?
It's hard to give good news in the midst of a storm.
Yeah.
But it's been worse.
Okay.
And I thought it was actually turning in a positive trend, and I'll tell you why. Facilities nowadays, you look at college football.
Okay.
And you do the business of the NCAA, and you look at the Alabamas, the Michigans, Ohio States, LSU's facilities.
Yeah.
People are putting, UCLA just redid millions. They've won one game. Millions in these facilities because now they're trying to lure these kids to their campuses.
Gotcha.
California, which I know you're all over this, they want to pay athletes.
Finally.
And it's right because they're getting pimped.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'd rather have a top 10 private university than to own an NFL team.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and we've talked on this show. Matter of fact, we were one of the first shows to come up to talk about this whole thing of paying athletes. I went through this whole thing 2 years ago, and I said, listen, we got to really start talking to this athlete because right now we need to change the name. The names are really good. Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl, you know, Slave Bowls are all good because if you're not compensating somebody and you're making millions of dollars in the process, and you can figure out how to pay coaches, assistant coaches, trainers,
millions,
yeah. And you're like in some kind of congressional, you know, meeting on how are we going to figure out how to let a kid who's 19, 20, and 21-year-old make money on his likeness? To me, this becomes not only a dichotomy in terms of just capitalism, but really, I think it goes to another system problem because now we're dealing with the aspect of when we start, and matter of fact, and just to put a point in it, Tim Tebow, who came out against this scenario, and what people like Tim Tebow don't understand is he is making the argument that there is a next level. People like Rick Doc Walker understand that's not a necessity. The likelihood of it is very slim. So when you're talking about a University of Maryland, my favorite college, and once again, I deal in mediocrity as part of my growing process. despite losing 59-0 to the Penn State Nittany Lions, the coach is going to make millions of dollars this year. The school is going to make millions of dollars, TV rights, filling up the stands, and people believe that they're doing this on the school, and unless I checked, none of these people are actually on the field playing. So the guy who's a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight ends, people who are making the deal, win or lose, that's how they're making their money. And so from a college standpoint of view, we see where the system is. But to the Redskins, back to that, we're looking at 15 years, 20 years now, where we have a team who in my opinion, has always had very good players. That's what made the rivalry between the Cowboys and the Redskins such a good rivalry. People forget, rivalries come because both teams are good. Rivalries don't come because there's one team that's like for example, people say the Penn State Maryland rivalry. Well, that's not really a rivalry. How can that be a rivalry when one team loses? No. No. So the rivalry with the Cowboys and Redskins, both teams are good. Players are great. Somehow, the organization has been able to eliminate or bring in coaching and management staff that for whatever reason cannot put the entire organization together to put the product on the field, and when they see it's going awry, when they see, okay, this is not working, and I know that you, and I'm going to give a plug in because you also are a master and expert at corporate training, so you see this on a corporate level. How do you not make the adjustment? I mean, it's one thing for fans and people like us, people like me, who don't have an inside knowledge of the NFL, who don't have an inside knowledge of professional sports. I mean, we're fans, we're looking at it from the outside, maybe analyzing, doing some reporting. We don't have the Rick Doc Walkers of the world do. They played there. They've been successful there. They've won Super Bowls there. The Washington Redskins organization, when Doc Walker was playing, and I know this because I was on the other side hoping that you all weren't going to make halftime adjustments, was considered by far one of the best organizations in the NFL, if I'm not correct. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, Joe,
no doubt.
Yeah, but we lost 5 in a row now. We started off 0-5.
I remember that.
So we understood what could happen.
But if I'm not mistaken on that, you all started 0-5. If I'm not mistaken, you all then ran off, I believe, 7 or 8 straight wins.
We ended up 8-8.
You all wind up winning. You all were 8-8 with a team that lost 5 games straight. That's what I'm talking about. That's how good of not just a player, but an organization. You all had an organization that said this: excellence is not something that we're hoping to do.
Well, it's also not apples for apples. Jack Kent Cooke was an experienced sports owner. He owned the purple and gold.
That's right. He did.
Lakers.
Absolutely.
He also was in horse racing. Being an owner just means you're rich. Being a sports owner means that you are actually involved in the day-to-day.
Okay.
You pick the GM because you know how. Not just because you're rich.
Right.
The biggest problem I see with Washington is that because Dan doesn't seem to want to be a full-time football person, right, which is his prerogative. He seems his passion leads to music and movies and film. Right. So that's where his attention's going to go. Then he should then hire someone. He has Bruce Allen, who I see Bruce as the president, the guy whose number one task is the stadium, and also the very serious nature of running a corporation, right? Which Bruce is excellent at. Yes. I don't know where the football guy is, who doesn't care about the stadium, doesn't care about the Cannes Film Festival. Exactly. Only cares about rehabilitation, weight rooms, who we gonna scrimmage. I just think we're missing a person because they won't hire a general manager. Now, they have these people there. Yes. Doug Williams could be a GM. Kyle Smith is grooming to be a GM. Between Kyle and Doug and Kyle and Eric Schaefer, in my opinion, they could build a football brand. Yes. But they don't seem to be allowed to do that. Then the coach, we have Bobby Beathard.
Oh, absolutely.
Hall of Fame. You got to create this tier system that will allow the football people to not care about where the stadium's going.
Exactly.
I don't care where it's going.
Right.
I'm worried about who's going to be in it when we get there.
Exactly.
And just the idea of, I don't know if it's true, stadium with a moat around. What? How do you think that water's going to end up looking? That ain't DC to me.
That's not Washington. That's not RFK Stadium.
We need a dome stadium, number one. I hear they're never going to do that because of their interest in soccer. Again, we have a place for soccer, and it's called the Audi Arena.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a venue for that. To me, and I care about soccer because it's an international sport.
Absolutely.
But not over football here at RFK or what the new stadium's going to be. So we need a dome because we should have a Super Bowl. We should have the Final Four in basketball. We should have the national championship game in football.
Absolutely.
See, but you can't have that without a cover.
You gotta have a dome.
Retractable.
Right.
Do a retractable. And to me, and that's where Bruce, to me, should be focused on doing all that. And we need to have a football guy or guys or committee that is strictly focused on the development of our players.
You bring out such a great point because when you see the product on the field, and this is something that, and I don't care, and regardless of what business it's in, it starts at the ownership level, and it starts with this idea, and something that you say is so significant about what's your focus? Follow one course until successful. What focus, to me, the Washington Redskins business, and we're actually going to talk about some other business, but the Washington Redskins business has been more focused, as you said, and don't get me wrong, maybe one of the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, top 5 most valuable franchises in all of the NFL. No. One of the most wealthy, one of the richest franchises in the world.
Yeah, they're top. But that's why maybe top 10, top 12 in the world. In all of sports, and haven't had a big win in 26 years.
Yeah, well, this is how come when people, they text me, they do the Facebook thing, they say, Terrell, are they going to change the Redskin name? We had that controversy. I'm like, unless you're going to give him $3.6 billion, then he might change. There's no way in the world he's changing the bread. I mean, you can call it the Washington football team. You can call it whatever you want to call it. You can call it the Washington Yo-Yos. He's going to call it the Washington Redskins because it went from, less than $1 billion when he bought it with $880 million to now $3.3 billion. That's the business. And I think where Dan Snyder has been is in this whole idea of just that, the business, in terms of not the football business, but in terms of the valuation business. How do I make my franchise worth a lot of money? And don't get me wrong, from a business standpoint of view, I think that's great. The challenge is, from a football business standpoint of view, that can be detrimental because while you might be more valuable than the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're not more valuable on the football field than they are. You're not more valuable than the New England Patriots on the football field. You're not more valuable. So at some point, it's going to come down to whether it's bragging rights or whatever. Listen, how valuable are we playing, doing the business, as you said, of football, and why are we constantly, from the top down, with an organization that's not focused on football?
Full time. And,
full time.
They have great sponsorship. Innova Healthcare, the medical people, great job. They forge good partnerships. Dan Snyder has put a fortune into a stadium that was a bad idea stadium. It was a rush job.
Oh, yeah.
So you had to pour a lot of money into that. We were really without any identity being there where people know no one wants to be permanently. That's not good.
No, absolutely
not. The community deserves better. Then you look at the fact that the MGM project starts up, the National Harbor Project.
Right.
Okay, and so that's something that is inviting, because give Jerry all the credit in the world. Texas Stadium is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
As you well know. But what they're building around it is in this infantile stage.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be, and LA will be the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to develop an area that not only has hospitals and malls, retail, that is a year-round functional piece of property that can generate funds annually, as opposed to a place we drop into 10 to 12 times a year. That's over. That ship has sailed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it don't need to be 100,000. It needs to be 60,000. Because now people are on these phones watching games.
That's right. Exactly.
This is a whole new ball game. So people say, TV's down. No, everything has changed.
Everything has changed.
Our habits are not what they once were.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so you have to adjust to all of that.
And now with sports betting, that's making its way.
Well, betting.
It's coming to the NFL.
Betting, fantasy.
Yeah.
I call it fake sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fake sports has a revenue stream.
That is significant.
Yeah, and so I'm not mad at it. I'm just going to stay with the real stuff until I just get bored with it.
Well, and the reason why I bought that in there, because of course with the business landscape changing, and matter of fact, it's going to kind of get into a segment that we're going to talk about. But while the landscape is changing, we're talking about, and you just hit on the word, fantasy sports. I mean, the fact that we're in a genre where we're talking fantasy sports, which means and DraftKings, you're telling me that the team that you're on. So we were talking about just before the show, how good fans that we are. You don't even have to be a fan of a team anymore. All you got to do, you don't have to be a fan of a team, which I'm going to talk about later in this segment. You don't have to be a fan of even an individual, which I'm going to talk about, which goes to why I believe you see these individuals. Why I believe you see the Antonio Browns. And I'm not saying this is the only thing. I will tell you, this is a result of fantasy football. Because what you're seeing is a guy where their numbers, their Twitter accounts, their Facebook page, likes and dislikes, people putting money, and I swear I don't understand all of fantasy football. I have to listen to you all show just to figure out how many. It's amazing to me that the Pittsburgh Steelers could lose and you as a fantasy player could win. Or in my case, the Dallas Cowboys could lose and somehow we won because the running back had 150 yards. That to me, which means it's very individualized. And that's what I want to talk about in coming up on this next segment. The looking at the business, one thing of the Redskins, but you as a player playing in an era where there was no social media. What was it from a business standpoint of view and from a professional standpoint of view playing in that era of football in comparison to today?
Well, I would prefer, obviously, from a monetary standpoint today.
Absolutely.
Because I have too many brothers that I played with that are on hard times.
Oh, absolutely. We'll talk about that for sure.
The pension is not anywhere where it needs to be to maintain a lifestyle as a professional, unlike baseball and basketball. And so, Antonio Brown, to me, I don't agree with the way he has gone about it.
Absolutely.
I think it'll prove that he will end up wasting a ton of money.
Losing a lot in the process, no question.
I hope not, but it comes a point in time. What he did to Mike Tomlin, I could never really get over that personally, because it tells me that he doesn't understand his history.
Right.
He has no historical perspective at all. And he's lazy, because if you don't read and seek information, it just means you're lazy. Mm-hmm. He's got them 3 beautiful little kids. We saw him doing Hard Knocks. What about them? It's all about him.
Well, there it is.
Yeah, and so he'll deprive them. They were headed towards private, not the private school's better school. It's just having the ability to be individually educated. Mm-hmm. And that may be gone off the table now. And no, we don't know what's going to happen with him, and all because he's selfish.
Well, I think there it is.
Yeah,
I think the difference between and again, this is just my observation.
Yeah.
The difference between players playing in the Doc Walker, and I mean, you always had your individuals, your aberrations, to me, and players playing today. Players, unfortunately, today. So you're right. The money is astronomical.
Oh, get it.
It's astronomical. But the challenge is it comes with a price of being individualized.
Well, you know how I feel about your favorite team, but I'll tell you what, Dak Prescott, he's an impressive human being.
Absolutely.
And I know his story, you know, with the mom.
Yep.
They should be so proud. I'm proud of him, and I can't stand his team, but I love him.
Oh, he's
a gentleman.
Yes.
He contorts himself in a way that he's got role model written all over him, but yet that's really not his responsibility.
That's exactly
to parent
right.
Your kids. But what he's proven to me and the system is that I understand he makes $30 million off the field.
Yes.
And Dallas can mess around with him. It's just going to cost you more. And he gets better every game. And I really, you know, I don't hope you go win 16. I just want to beat you twice. We ain't done that in a long time.
Right.
But I love the way he handles himself as a pro. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody to tell my kids, I don't care if y'all can't stand the Cowboys, but you got to watch that man there and respect him.
That's right.
Because he's a gentleman, he's a terrific player, and he's a role model. And I hope that a guy like Dak Prescott ends up being president of the National Football League or goes on to do. Because one thing he's not going to do, he's not going to end up looking like a jerk when this thing is over. I don't believe that. I think he's going to survive all of this, and one day I hope to see him in a position of power and influence.
Well, you know what? And you brought out in terms of, and I think that this is where we go to the individual. One of the things that's happening in this era, and I can speak from a fan standpoint of view, although we were, and I'm going to talk about it in a couple of ways. First of all, you was a fan, first of all, of the sport. You know, when I was growing up, we played football, you know, from elementary school through high school. You wanted to play. Even if you didn't make the team, you had to play some level of football somewhere. That's first of all. So the reality of it was this. I might not have liked the Washington Redskins, but I had to respect Doc Walker and the Hogs. And not only did I have to respect them, I had to respect them in this way. I knew when they got on the field that, first of all, as a team, they're going to be dominant. And one of the things that people will tell you is that you might not, but you got to respect them. And so you were like, oh my God, they're getting that single set back with Riggins in the back. Here this thing, this counter tray left. Here this thing comes. And you know it's signature. And so for a team, and for although there were superstars as individuals, you know, back in the day you had your Theismans and you had your Riggins and you had your Staubachs and you had your Dorsets. You had all those people. You also knew this was about the team. And very rarely can I remember, you might can make the assessment, I don't know of any superstars in that era who thought they were bigger than the team. They might have done it privately. They might have done it, you know, in the locker room. They might have done it, hey, we're at the house. But I'm talking about when they got out in the cameras or in front of people, they were all like, oh, no, yeah, it's, you know, yeah, I'm good. But without this team.
Well, look who you had. Drew Pearson. Class act. Tony Hill. I mean, we're talking about, you know, those teams, Dennis Thurman, my good buddy, Dennis Thurman, they're just class people.
Right.
And so Randy White, who's a Terrapin, I mean, he hated us, but we hated him back, but respected his game.
You had to.
You know, and the difference about it is that, you know, Dutton, Too Tall, all them guys, we had to battle all the time. There's a Danny White. There's a level of respect. I mean, he's a Sun Devil. So we did so many things off the field. See, our teams would play in the off-season. We play basketball, charity basketball games.
Right.
Together. We had a uniqueness. Calvin Hill, who to this day, I admire him as a man.
Mm-hmm.
and he works for the Cowboys, but lives in
That's right. Exactly right.
And so we have a lot of cross pollination, but we've also had a lot of guys who played Fugit. We've had a lot of guys play on both teams.
Oh yes.
Now that's the most unique thing going.
Yes.
And when we have it North here, personally, I'm more like George Allen. I probably never ever would have had a Cowboy on my team personally.
Oh yeah.
But they've done it for business reasons. I love the rivalry, if it in fact is legit, and it's never legit to me till it's King Kong Godzilla.
That's right. That's exactly right.
If you don't win in 4 years or 5 years in a row, call me when you grow up.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
right. Now Dallas is smoking, is leaving us in the wings. But that last game, everybody still looks towards it. They may not even have to play anybody. They may be resting for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Who knows?
Right.
But I do know this.
I'll be in Dallas.
We're going to be there.
And
that's the thing that's special.
Yes.
If that ever dies, it'll be sad.
Yeah. I think that, for me, I get my tickets for the Redskin Cowboy game, and now go to Dallas because and again, I can only speak, and I tell people as a fan, one of the things, and it amazes me that reporters and other people who now, and again, we talk about this social media area, and when we get on the other side of this break, we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But when we get into this era of sports and social media, the other thing that I think happens is the fact that we begin to look at athletes, and this is my opinion from a fan standpoint, as too much like individuals, regular people. And what I mean by that is, I'm not talking about their personalities, I'm not talking about them being good guys. I am talking about the phenoms that they are. One of the problems is, I think, with social media, is we now have taken the athlete and in our minds, because we have this many general managers, Facebook, fantasy football, whatever, you will hear average people say stuff like, "Oh, that guy's terrible." And I remember I was watching Jalen and Jacoby. And I love what Jalen Rose said. Jalen Rose said something to me that, because, Skip Bayless and all these people running around how sorry these people are. Jalen said, listen, if you're in the NBA, I don't care. I understand. I understand you think he's a scrub. If he's in the NBA, he was somebody's superstar. If the guy is in the NFL, and this is the other thing is really hurt us, they're all superstars in some capacity. They now, professionals, in my opinion, this is why I think they need more of them on the bigger stages to really do evaluations, can say, you know what, yeah, that guy should be a better lineman or a better tackle or a better tight end. Yes, Doc Walker can evaluate a tight end and say this, yeah, that guy right there, he's not a very good tight end. And he can come up with all the justifications and reasons for it because he's actually been out there doing it. I can say, in comparison to my team, who I like, yeah, I like my guy better. But in terms of me saying that the guy is not good or this and that, one of the things that's happening is we begin to look at these guys as regular people. And the problem is, as you devalue who they are, not only does it devalue in terms of how they negotiate from a business standpoint, but it really devalues what you think about the sport, which is the bigger issue. So we now get into this scenario of, talking about all these other aspects of football outside of that. For an example, the concussion issue, which I get it. I understand that, we're trying to make the game safer. I'm all for it. I think we ought to do so. But let's be clear about this. It is football. I mean, the guys who played in an era where they were, you all played in the era where they were running head first, and the thing was, the defensive guy don't get hurt. Because the offensive guy's going to run you over. And today we're we've turned it into, like I said, fantasy football. We want to watch a violent sport, but we don't want to see nobody get hurt. And God forbid the quarterback gets hurt. So on the other side of this break, I want to talk about the business, not only as you talked about of the athlete, but the business of sports today with now the media and the social media and how we're now How is this impacting the game itself? So back on the other side of this break within Business with Terrell Sheppard, we're going to talk further about the business and how now the game is evolving forward with none other than Rick Doc Walker. Back on the other side in the next minute. Back again within Business with Terrell Sheppard, yours truly, and of course we have none other than Rick Doc Walker, who's been with us for the whole segment. We thank him so much for his time and effort. Rick, thanks so much.
Yeah, good to be here.
You know, one of the things we talked about was, again, going back into this whole idea, this whole aspect of where the athlete is going today. You know, we've talked about it from the standpoint, and then from the business. We know that, for example, the NFL, a lot of people don't realize this, a $14 billion industry. And that's unbelievable. 32 guys split $14 billion. You know, they're talking about revenue share. 32 guys split $14 billion for a game, for a sport. It's unbelievable. And they're only expect for this to move further. You know, potentially 16 to $17 billion projected from 20 and 21 going into the National Football. It's unbelievable the money that is in the sport today. And how you can make money in the sport today. You know, whether you're talking about playing on the field, whether you're talking about being a trainer, whether you're talking about selling product, merchandise, advertising, commentary, whatever. There's so many different aspects. Money is it's a tremendous amount of money. The question is, how does that begin to impact what's happening on the field? With the money that's in the game. Because whenever you got money in the game, to this extent, I always say when you put money, it's just like in politics, you know, the reason why they want to come up with political caps, because they know once money's in the game itself, and we already see this shifting, where you're talking about, again, basically you might as well, I think on your show you said you might as well start putting, you know, the flags on the side of the quarterbacks and just letting them, you know, just run in the backfield and just pull a flag. Because God forbid you actually tackle a quarterback.
I never thought that'd be possible. We're closer to that than ever before.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable of where the game, watching the game. And you're thinking to yourself, why do we have the rules set up in a violent sport? Where if you then look at the UFC as an example, see, they modified the rules to keep them breaking all their arms, but basically they're like this, hey, if this thing goes down the wrong way, you know, it goes down the wrong way for you. And people, the reason why people go to NASCAR is not to see people drive 80 miles around the track, to see them drive 180 miles around the track. People want to see football where you have guys who are the best in the business. See, that's what I think people are missing with this. That's why I say I go back to that point. I've been an advocate about this. They're the best in the business colliding with each other. And the problem is, fans are seeing this and saying, whoa, wait a minute. We don't want to see the best in the business. We don't want to see a guy who's 6'4", 245 pounds and can run a 4.6. We don't want to see that guy hit somebody. And my thing is, that's exactly what we want to see. And if we stop being able to see it, I think the game is going to modify itself. I think what I believe the NFL and even the NBA to a certain extent becomes in danger of the product that they put on the field, if they don't recognize that the product that people really want to see is real football. I think when I get this whole protection, I get it, but I think you're going to, and you're starting to see this in ratings a little bit. That Thursday night game is I mean, they better, outside you having the New England Patriots on there or something, you better, that Thursday night game is going to
improve. They've improved. Thursday nights has really improved. But also Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, I think the social media giants are taking advantage of it, if I'm not mistaken. Yahoo.
Yes.
And that's a big help. Mm-hmm. And I mean, because everything's just different. But if you're good, the Patriots, people are going to watch the Patriots.
People going to watch the Patriots.
People going to watch it.
And I'm not saying that what people are calling good has shifted. Mm-hmm. Because the game itself, a lot of times we'll get into this conversation, and I know you've had it on your show hundreds of times. I've heard you. We get into this whole eras. Who's the best? The Patrick Mahomes of this era. Could he be, Steve Young? Could he be Theismann in that era? Could he be? And when you start making the comparison in eras of sports, you have to take into account the rules.
Well, Michael Jordan is probably victimized the most in this because had he played in this era with no hand checking, the records, that's why now I don't pay a lot of attention to records. I do chronicle errors, and I hope that I never say this without being specific. I always say, well, in the 80s era, he was untouched. I don't combine them. I think the Big Dipper in his era, Wilt was unchecked. Bill Russell in his era.
Yes.
So I don't think that Cousy was any less talented as a ball handler than anybody than Steph Curry.
Exactly.
I think they're absolutely the same impact in their eras.
I think, and that's so right. And I think that as the sport transitions, as it evolves, what we're watching. So when people say Patrick Mahomes, and then they say, you'll hear a commentator say, the greatest passer that we've seen. And I'm saying, well,
that he's seen.
And
yeah.
well, my challenge with that is, well, so you miss watching Dan Fouts pass the football.
He didn't see Joe. He didn't see Joe Willie Namath.
He didn't see Joe. He didn't see. He didn't see Dan Marino passing the football.
Oh man, there's some cats throwing that ball. Shaq Harris. Come on, man.
So when you're talking about eras, I think you're 100% correct. In this era, where the game has basically said, we don't want to see what we saw Sunday night, really. We don't want to see no 12-10 game. Really. That's an aberration. That's a bunch. They're like, trust me, they're back in NFL films and junk figuring out like, we expecting this to be like, 28-31, or I know Drew wasn't playing, but, what's going on? Why were the defenses this dominant? Because that's not what we're paying for today. We're paying to see somebody score 25 to 35 points a game.
I agree.
That's what and this is what the sponsors are paying for. This is what the NFL is paying for. So I think it shifts, again, the athlete from a business standpoint of view. Because if you get to your scoring athletes, your running backs, your less running back, because that's why Ezekiel's dealing with. Notice, once you get past Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, maybe one or two more you can throw in there. How many more backs getting mega deals? Game has changed. Backs aren't getting mega deals. Now, in the era that Doc Walker was in, the running back was the guy.
Dorsett, Sweetness,
right?
Barry Sanders, John Riggins. Wilbur Jackson. There were backs everywhere.
And you needed one.
Yeah, like I say, I think the Rams, Lawrence McCutcheon. I can remember Dick Bass in the original blue and white uniform. So I'm good with it. I don't get in those arguments but I respect those that do because it's a form of entertainment for them.
Right.
And it is a good break to get away from it. But when you work in this industry, as you well know, hey, man, you got to stay on top of everything. But you're human. I like certain things. I dislike others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that when you start looking at the business of where it is, you have to understand it's business decisions that's changing the rules on the game. You know, as we talked about the Redskins issue, the organization issue, it's the business of football that's saying, hey, wait a minute. We can't afford to see guys out for weeks and weeks. We only got 16, 17 games. We can't afford to see these guys. So they're going to do everything they can because as eyeballs are on the television, that's how they get sponsors. That's how they pay these big contracts. That's how they pay these NFL players. And that's how they pay. Now, like you said, the money in the game is unreal. You mentioned, we just talked about Dak Prescott. I mean, you know, we're in a conversation where, and you and I was off air in this conversation, Dak Prescott, is he going to get $40 million a year?
Yeah. Possibility.
I mean,
is increasing.
Yeah.
You better hope not as a Cowboy fan. But, I mean, I don't know how Jera can give him less than 34 as we speak.
And speaking of the business of that, knowing, and of course, I've been a proponent here that, and I've said this on my show, first of all, they need to decertify the union and somehow figure out how to get rid of a salary cap. I don't know how the NFL players came to a conclusion that you can help manage billionaires, teams, and owners. That they've figured out how to sell that to players and to the NFLPA, and it's not. Baseball players have said, I don't care what these other sports are doing. I am never, ever going to accept a salary cap. Why? Because they know billionaires, in the way they became billionaires, is without a salary cap. They already know this. They're like, are you kidding me? We're never in baseball they're going to have that. Football players have bought into this revenue sharing idea that they can revenue share. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, if all the revenue goes to the teams, you're a businessman, you know, if all the revenue starts, you're getting paid as an employee. There's no revenue share. It's not like they're splitting it up with the NFL Player Association and with the owners. All the money goes to the owners. They just have an agreement. This is what we're going to pay you. So on that note, as the money increases, what you're seeing players do, I believe, is become more individualized because they understand, although they're in a salary cap, it's less for the mega money. See, it's less for everybody's getting paid, but it's less for mega. Dak Prescott knows. Look, and matter of fact, Ezekiel Elliott understood this. His agents understood this. If we don't sit out right now, see, they understood this. If we aren't willing to potentially sit out for games and put the pressure on Jerry Jones to determine whether he wants to pay me, here's what's going to happen. This is a one and done deal. There are no more big deals for Ezekiel Elliott. He knows that. That's it. This deal he signed, it's it. Dak Prescott knows the exact same thing. Because if he's going to his fourth year, they're going to, first of all, want to sign him to a 5 to 7 year deal. Well, if you just look at the prime years of your career, that means that it's going to take him till he's 32. Mm-hmm. Now, outside of you telling me he done won 7 Super Bowls in that time frame,
done that
if he don't get the deal on this contract, his deal's done.
Oh yeah, no,
and he knows
it. They have to pay him.
And they have to pay him.
They have to pay him.
So Dak Prescott. Now, I think the mistake the Cowboys are making, since you brought up my team, is the fact that I don't know if they are like thinking him winning more games helps them in the negotiation. If I'm Jerry Jones, I'm thinking to myself, first of all, we need to sign him before we sign Carson Wentz. Because Carson Wentz hasn't played a full season in 3 years. They both were drafted the exact same year. So if the Philadelphia Eagles say we're going to pay Carson Wentz $34 million or whatever a year, $70, $80 million guaranteed. Dak Prescott has 2 division titles, two NFC East championship titles. He's been to the playoffs. He's won a playoff game. That's his comparison. His contemporary is in his same division. Like, what were the Cowboys thinking that, like, what?
Well, in all due respect, they had to get Zeke underway. You had a lineman need to be signed. You have so many talented players. And don't forget your receiver. 19's going to want more money.
He is.
You're in a jam, and I can't wait for you guys to get in such a knot that you can't come out of it. And then this other receiver, Gallup. Gallup is the real deal.
He's the real deal.
Yeah, so pay them all. Pay them all. I hope you guys choke on a wad of cash.
We're going to choke. I don't see that. Somebody's not going to get paid. We know Dak's going to get paid. Oh, yeah. We do know, and maybe, before I get to this last segment, maybe do the Washington Redskins, just so we have it on the show, do they make a wholesale change in the middle of the season, or do they wait till the end of the year?
I don't know. It depends on how bad the next 2 weeks come out. I can't imagine. People say, "Oh, you're never going to beat the Patriots." Well, those are people that have never played competitive sports.
Yeah, it can happen.
I mean, now the chances of the Patriots looking past Washington, that's why Bill is Bill. He'll probably ride them like Secretariat, but they're human.
They're human beings.
And there's no way you can tell me that they're coming down here fired up. They want to get through this. They want to not get injured and get the heck out of here. That's when things can happen to you. So, I mean, Bill's great, but if Washington, these Redskins, if they can band together and quit the infighting.
Exactly.
They got an opportunity of a lifetime because they have an opponent that can't possibly respect them.
No, I mean, we just saw the Cleveland Browns, which beat down the Ravens.
Beat them down.
I mean, I was like, what? We saw the Buffalo Bills basically beat the New England Patriots on Sunday.
They did everything
outside of the doggone, kicking a punt return being blocked. I mean, we basically saw them beat
They're really good.
I saw a Detroit Lions team and said to myself, is this Detroit?
Yeah.
So again, they're professionals. I think that the Washington Redskins are going to make some wholesale. They're going to make some business decisions here, but I think it's going to come down to I think the decisions that they're starting to make. For example, I thought they should have played Haskins a little bit later in the season. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't think they should have played him. Case Keenum didn't get terrible last week. He didn't get terrible in the first quarter. Case Keenum been playing the way. That's why he's not in Minnesota. So the idea that we're going to now put Haskins in the fire with New England, again, I think that if you're going to do that, you should have started at the beginning of the year and just say, let him ride and see what happens. If you're going to now put him there, my thing would be, hey, if you're going to make a wholesale change, you might as well do it. If you're not going to make a wholesale change, ride it out. Mm-hmm. That's why they got an off season. And make whatever change you're going to make. But I want to on the other side of this last break, when we come back, I'm going to shift and talk a little bit more about some other business with Doc Walker. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we have coming up maybe in the future. So back on the other side of this break with In Business with Terrell Sheppard and Rick Doc Walker. Welcome back to In Business with Terrell Sheppard again. Rick Doc Walker, so glad to have you again for the full segment and hour with us.
Good to be here.
It was fantastic to have you. And again, I want to talk about a little bit, as we've been talking about all things sports, all things business. We've been talking about the business of the NFL today, and it's so great to have Rick Doc Walker, who's an expert, in my opinion, as it comes to not only the business of the NFL, but of course not only played, not only he's been there as a broadcaster for now going on close to 30 years now.
Yeah, 26 in radio,
26 in TV.
I'm just a baby. I'm still growing.
You are
toddler.
No doubt. The voice of Washington D.C. and the Washington Redskins has been here, and of course, a lot of people don't realize this, but they should realize that you're broadcasting in the area of college football. You've done it on a national basis, on a big basis. In that aspect, is we going to have any more of that coming up in the near future?
No,
or have you decided?
No, I'm done. I love college, unless somebody wants me to do it.
Okay.
I can't do it myself, but I loved college because I love being on campus on Fridays.
Yes.
It's hard to do it I did pro college for 10 years doing doubles.
Okay.
And it was in my 40s, it was okay. But now I'm happy to where college football is taking itself.
Okay. That's
exciting now with the Final Four.
Yes.
But covering all the sports is really the best of all worlds because I got to be a part of the Capitals' run to the Stanley Cup.
Fantastic.
And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was involved in just football. In baseball, the Curly W's have given us a lot of thrills. The Mystics are in it. I'm pulling for our area here as the DMV.
Absolutely.
In sports. I'm tired of being referenced as a one-trick pony.
Yep.
And I hope I live long enough to see the Wizards get back in championship form because I can't believe that we missed that little window. It looked like we had it. John was healthy. Brad was healthy. I can see us now in Atlanta, and John breaks the wrist.
Yes.
Then I see us with the series with the Celtics, and Bradley, I think, just emerged.
Oh, my God.
As a grown-up man.
Oh, my goodness.
And then we show all this promise, and then, it kind of gets blown up. So that's a new chapter. We'll see what happens, but seeing Mike Loxley come back to the area.
Yes.
And now that we've got a check in reality that we got work to do.
Yeah, we got work to do.
We got work to do.
Absolutely.
But the athletes are here.
Yes.
They're in the DMV. And if Mike and his staff can keep the ones that they can keep, he can.
Yeah, and start recruiting. I think that man's going to be great. I'm glad that you talked about the broader sports because one of the things that you're doing, you're now, and of course you can obviously, as we're affiliated with ProView, of course you've been doing that now 18 years.
Yeah, I'm going to the 18th year, and Mike Bird, who's done a phenomenal job in the marketplace, but it's really just telling the athlete's story. The whole idea of it was to be able to give you more than just the game action, but to talk and meet the guys who are playing.
Yep.
So we've been very fortunate with that. Lunch with a Pro, we've done 27 of those. You've seen it. Mm-hmm. And Clinton Portis was our last guest at the Brass Tap at National Harbor.
Fantastic.
We'll be back this month again, and we'll be back in November. Again, the athlete showing. I hate it when sports fans who can't go to games, can't afford luxury suites, but need to go out and hear a guy's philosophy, not just at a says he scribbles his name, give you that. No, I don't like that. You need to hear Clinton Portis told you about it.
It was a phenomenal. It was only my second time being at a ProView event, and I'll tell you, it was absolutely phenomenal. It was phenomenal from not just a networking standpoint, but it was phenomenal, like you said, to hear and to see how you all put that on and the businesses that are around it, which, of course, what I'm all about.
And that's just much with a pro, but it is combined. We give you because you're never just doing one or the other. Life is business, and business is life.
Absolutely.
So we're not just having recreation. No, this is business.
Absolutely.
Pleasure, and Kamalu cigars on the deck.
Absolutely,
with Brother Washington. This is what it's all about. And then the latest venture is Doc Walker Live on Facebook.
Absolutely, what we want to talk about.
So we're going into that as well.
Absolutely,
10 under our belt. We'll do our 11th this week, and it's just the evolution of being able to give the fans who aren't gamblers, fantasy, Madden, or all the other, I call them fake sports.
Right.
We want real conversation about real contact sports, then I'm going to provide that. I'm not trying to be everything to everybody.
Absolutely.
I got friends who are experts in fantasy, Galdi, all these guys. They know all that. And you should check them out. I say, when a man goes to a place, he wants a real good steak, you know where his favorite steakhouse is.
That's it.
But he know what he wants. When he wants a cigar, when he wants to go have a champagne, when he wants to go see whatever he wants to see.
Yes.
Whether it's a jazz, rock and roll.
Absolutely.
It's a genre. He picks it.
Yes.
So when it's like you want to go real, I want you to pick me.
Well, you brought it up, and I think that the Doc Walker Live is where it's coming out, and where we're looking to be a part and a partner with that. We think that's going to be a fantastic opportunity. And that show, just in the snippet and segment, just tell us it's going to obviously go well beyond football, because you're going to be talking more about the entire genre of sports, well as from the whole other.
We're doing football season right now. I mean, we're going heavy burgundy and gold.
Sure.
And NFL, because I think doing football season, it's the number one sport.
Absolutely.
And I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, we got other formats and other times we can do. We can help. We can do that on Twitter and Instagram. But I just think that I wanted to, especially, you won't feel this, but for our Burgundy and Gold Nation, that really now they need. It's like counseling. They need therapy. I mean, really. See, y'all rolling, but for us, hey man, they got to have a shoulder to cry on. They got to have, and I'm going to provide that, and then we'll see how it goes. But then the off season, we'll definitely open up, because my goal is to have the town hall meeting. My guy, Randy Richardson from Double R Productions, my main man.
Absolutely.
He's the first guy to hit me with that notion about the town hall meeting, and I think that every sport, whether it be, or every issue related, whether it be college scholarships, should kids be paid?
Yeah. Yes.
We need to discuss in the open forum.
That's fantastic.
We can really get people involved. And if it comes down to, I love people say, ownership, but the Packers own their club.
Absolutely.
So if it can be done, it's going to happen somewhere else eventually.
Exactly.
But it will never happen unless the people are band together. And it ain't just crap talk.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's why my vision is to be able to, we need to sell some of these issues. And youth sports, Terrence Bird and the Maryland Heat, man, I'm so proud of you. 7th and 8th graders. Mike Anderson started GYFL.
GYFL, yeah.
It has emerged now, going with Terrence Bird and what's going on with the Maryland Heat. Tony Kennedy with his Gridiron Classic and what he's doing.
Absolutely.
We've got guys in our area that have done a great job in supporting youth athletics.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some real good news coming out of Prince George's County that I've been privy to, but not ready to break yet.
Good. Okay.
But yeah, man, getting some. And I love that when ex-pros, in this case ex-Terps too, get together and bring something back in here. Kevin Durant's doing it. Dude, I don't care if he's with New Jersey. I don't care if he's with
doing an amazing thing.
He always drops a dime in Prince George's.
Always, and he's part of a major project that's taking place.
He's a
in Prince George's County, and so we're excited about having him there and his family, what they're doing, and really what we're doing. But I'm excited about the fact again that you took the time to get on this side of the town, as you always are.
Yeah, but I like the business of sports. See,
fantastic.
I'm hearing people bitch and moan all day. But they should pay attention to the numbers.
Absolutely. That's where it comes down to.
We are still not where we ought to be in terms of the salaries.
Nowhere near.
And the wealth stream. And until the ownership, we get into ownership and really in controlling these big dollars, we're still just laborers.
We're laborers. We're watching. We're spectating.
Now, I want ownership. I want to see it, and that's why I love the business of sports and what you do. I hope these kids are out here watching and understanding that they can be in film, they can be commentators, they can do tape, they can be sports medicine, videography, they can be stats people. I don't want you to just think you got to be a player to make it in sports, because you don't. There's a lot in sports.
Absolutely.
You know, like Ted Leonsis, Monumental Sports. Hey, we got players coming back now, not just to coach. I'm not down on coaching. Do that.
Absolutely.
But I'm looking at guys coming back that are non-management.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, you've heard this right here from Rick Doc Walker. We're excited to have him right here on In Business with Terrell Sheppard. And we're looking for more big things. We're looking for more opportunities. You might see us in a couple other things in the future. We're excited about Rick Doc Walker being here, partnering with us, working with us, and most of all, bringing you the real content on all things sports
Hit me on
and
IG,
all
man.
things
Hit me
business.
hit me
So
up.
we're excited. We're going to have you. We're going to get all